I feel every photographer has been glued to social media waiting for the next round of images to drop from this Artemis mission. But these images haven't been without criticism, conspiracy, and just genuine disbelief that these are even real. In today's video, I'm going to provide some insight on the equipment used during this mission, some of the settings of the photos, how the images were taken, as well as some of the science that we're seeing in the images. Now, I am not an astrologer, I am a motorsports photographer, but I have enjoyed space since I was a kid. So seeing these images has been an absolute delight because some of the views that we're getting is absolutely immaculate, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the Artemis missions are able to find as they proceed in the future. As of right now, they have splashed down, they have made it back safely. I started writing this before they splashed down, but they have splashed down, and it was a successful mission. First, let's just briefly identify what the Artemis 2 mission entailed. It was a crewed mission to test various components of the Orion capsule, as well as the initial stage of the Space Launch System. Over the course of their 9-day journey around the Earth to the Moon and back, they were tasked with testing various procedures, various maneuvers, as well as other components that were expanded upon in Artemis 1. This is an ongoing plan to get us to a stable lunar base on the south pole of the moon. So testing all of these critical components of the capsule is paramount for future successful missions with other humans on board. Brought along to document what they see in space, we've had 3 camera bodies that I've identified from the photos that I've seen. You have 2 Nikon D5s as well as a Nikon Z9 mirrorless camera. The D5s are from 2016, the Z9 is a little bit more recent in 2021. Now, hearing that they're using a camera from 2016 is a head scratcher at first until you realize that this has been tried and tested by NASA and can stand the radiation levels experienced in space, as well as it is also immaculate in low light conditions, and you'll see in some of the images coming up that it is perfectly capable in being able to handle these low light situations. Also, you'll find integrated in and around the capsule numerous GoPros that are tasked with providing a visual aid to mission control, as well as capturing just key components of the stage separation process during liftoff and throughout the mission. And it provides mission control with visual data of what's going on outside the capsule, inside the capsule, etc. It also provides insane views of this SLS system separation. It's kind of insane. With the help of Reddit, there is a list that I have found of the potential lenses that were on board based on the data, as well as just what was seen in the images of them taking photos. So it looks like we have numerous lenses that they were able to choose. Starting off, you have a Nikon AF 14mm to 24mm 2.8. Then you have another Nikon AF 80mm to 400mm, and this is a variable aperture of 4.5 to 5.6. Now, what do I mean by variable aperture? This is a 150 to 600 variable aperture, 5 to 6.3, meaning at 150 millimeters, the max I can open this aperture is a 5. Not the most ideal for my niche. I'm outside in the middle of the day a lot. I'm trying to save up to get something that's a 2.8, but money's, moneying right now. But then when you expand it or zoom in to 600 millimeters, the widest I can open that aperture is a 6.3, so that is what a variable aperture is. Next, you have a Nikon AF 35mm prime f2, so that means the widest its aperture can open is a 2. That's a crazy prime lens. Then it looks like for the Nikon Z9, you have 2 Nikkor lenses. You have a Nikkor 24 to 70 2.8 and a Nikkor Z 100mm to 400mm, and that has a variable aperture of 4.5 to 5.6. Now let's get to some of these beautiful images and some of the very, very dumb comments associated with them. After the translunar injection burn, after they've completely orbited the moon, they need to do this translunar injection burn to basically use the Earth's momentum of its rotation and its gravity to basically slingshot us to where the moon is going to be. That is genuinely insane. That is one of my favorite things about space, just on a tangent. That whole concept is absolutely asinine to me. So cool. But we got a very amazing picture of Earth that we haven't seen in almost 50 years. And just at this moment, it's pushing the limits of the camera. We see that we are on the back side of Earth, so the sun is lighting the front. We can only see the dark side of the Earth. So this is a very, very low light image. Now we see that this was shot at 1/4 of a second with a 4 aperture and an ISO of 51,200 using a focal length of 22 millimeters. I saw a lot of really dumb comments under this image saying that this is AI because how did the Earth look so bright on the dark side? And how the continents don't even look like this, so it has to be AI. Well, it would make much more sense if you flip the image upside down, and then you start to see the outline of Africa and South America, and it starts to make much more sense. Another stupid comment that I saw were people saying, where's all the satellites? Well, I'll show you this photo I took at Road Atlanta and ask you, where are all the bugs? Before we talk about the next set of images, I want to talk about today's channel supporter, Uppbeat. Uppbeat is your one-stop creator shop for everything from music to sounds to LUTs to motion graphics and their newest edition, stock video. I have used Uppbeat ever since I started documenting my motorsports journey almost 2.5 years ago, and I can say that I love it. It lets me curate the vibe that I'm going for with my videos, and with their addition over the past couple years of motion graphics, LUTs, and now stock footage, I'm going to be able to expand the look of my videos so much more. So if you're interested in this, I'll leave a link below. You're not only going to be getting tons of premium music, sounds, LUTs, motion graphics, etc., but you're also going to be helping out my channel, and it means the world to me. So go ahead and hit the link in the description, but I'll leave it at that, and we'll get back to looking at some beautiful images. Now we get to the most anticipated part of the mission, the lunar flyby to the rear side of the moon, something that hasn't been seen by humans in over 50 years. It's going to provide a lot of new insight. They've been trained on what to look for, on many numerous different styles of geological formations, and a bunch of other science stuff. We also get to see Earthset. Now, Earthset was something that caught the previous astronauts by surprise back in the 70s, to the point where they had to scramble to change from black and white film to color film to capture the beauty of what they saw, because they did not know that they were going to see this. These astronauts in the Orion capsule were perfectly prepared, and they did not miss the opportunity. There were 2 images that caused a lot of confusion in the comment section on social media. Some of the comments were just blatantly stupid, but some had genuine questions asking the size and scale of the 2 images. How are these images, they don't look that far in distance, but how come the Earth looks so different in each of the 2 images? And that's actually very easily explained. The difference in the 2 images is something called lens compression. So basically, when you're taking a photo of something with your lens all the way zoomed in, it will compress that and make things sometimes in the background look much closer or much bigger than they actually are. To reference a motorsports photo, I've taken this shot at the S's, but when I'm zoomed in, you can see that things in the background look much bigger in comparison to what I'm actually trying to photograph than in the wider angle shot. And you'll see that in this image of Earthset, and you can see this lens compression happening because these images are only taken a few minutes apart, but one is taken at 400 millimeters and the other one is taken at 80 millimeters. So that really does warp the sense of scale as far as lens compression. I also want to point out that a wide angle lens can actually have the opposite effect, and we can see it with our cell phones as well as the GoPros that are integrated on the Orion capsule. Another image that caused a lot of confusion in the comment section on social media posts that NASA made was the "we are halfway to the moon" post, where the moon is so ridiculously tiny that people are like, there's no way we're halfway to the moon. Look how small it is. Again, that's just another mind trick that these lenses play on you. The focal length of that GoPro camera is somewhere, I believe it's like 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters. So these wide angle lenses have another basically inverse effect of what the lens compression does with a, longer focal length of 400 millimeters, etc. to where it actually extends the distance, because you can kind of see this on Earth. You see, oh, the moon is so beautiful, I have to take a photo, and you pull your phone out and you're like, this looks terrible, this looks awful. It's the same thing. It's the GoPro focal length is not matching what your eyes see, so it just kind of looks extended, looks further out, and not as, appealing. If you've gotten this far, please consider hitting the subscribe button, as it means a lot to me as I'm growing this channel. I do specialize in motorsports, so if you are interested in learning the behind the scenes of motorsports, I do a lot of content with that. But I'm starting to branch out into just more photography content in general. Let me know your favorite image from this Artemis 2 mission, and we're going to go look at this final set of images. The last set of images we're going to look at today is the immaculate view of the solar eclipse that they were able to see as they flew back around the moon. Now, this was something that only they could see, and it is something that has never been documented by humans in history ever. So it was so cool to see. Once the images dropped, I literally sat and just looked at them for a long time, because it is just so incomprehensible. And even the astronauts in the Orion capsule, they couldn't fully describe what they were seeing. They just had this moment of awe and wonder, and then they had to get back into the science, because our human brains are not designed to comprehend something like this. In almost every image up to this point, I saw a lot of conspiracy comments that these are AI, these are fake, because where are the stars? When you think about it in the concept of space, it's technically daytime all the time. But that's why the James Webb Telescope and the Hubble Telescope, they'll point away from the sun and away from the Earth, so that way there's no extra light. But anyways, we got a unique view of a solar eclipse that only the crew of the Orion capsule got to see. A lot of people in the comments were jumping that this is AI just because it is so unbelievable to look at these images. And sometimes their brain's just small, to be quite honest with you. I don't spend my time arguing with people on if the Earth is flat, if the moon landing was real. I don't even debate people like that, because there's just no reasoning with stupidity. You get a very unique opportunity to view the stars because the sun is being almost completely blocked. You are in totality. And one cool thing that I would like to point out is that these little dots here, you have Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and Mercury. And I saw a lot of comments about people were talking about how is that in totality? How is the light working? Because there's light on the side of the moon. So this has to be fake in some way, because how do they get light on the side of the moon? But what you'll actually find out is that that light is Earthshine. When it's dark on our side of the planet, but it's lit up from the moon, because light from the sun is hitting the moon, reflecting that light on us, the inverse effect is happening to the moon. So light from the sun is hitting Earth, being bounced back onto the moon. So that's how you see that little glow of light. And probably one of my favorite images from the Artemis 2 mission, because it reminds me of one of my favorite movies of all time. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. This image, I don't know why it does, but it reminds me of Arrival. Specifically when Dr. Louise talks to Costello at the end of the movie and is figuring out the ending. That you just have to watch the movie. But I don't know why it makes me think of this, but it just does. So when I first saw this image, I actually thought that this glowing item on the left of the image is Saturn, but actually it's Venus. Looking at this image is already incredible, but then when you actually dive into the data, it's just absolute insanity. It just makes my brain so happy as a photographer, because the camera is being pushed to its absolute limit in a situation that humans have never seen before, and it was able to capture it. I don't know what this looked like to the naked eye, but I can only imagine what this had to look like. This image was shot at a 1/6 of a second with a 4.5 aperture and an ISO of 40,000. The focal length was 80 millimeters. Thank you guys for watching this video. I know this was completely different from my motorsports content, but I've just been so in love with what we are seeing with these Artemis photos. It has just made me so happy. It's made me so hopeful for what's going on in the future. Been seeing a lot of compilations of kids dressed in space gear that watched the initial launch. It's just seeing people come up to me at work and we talk about it, and everyone's excited, and just seeing people genuinely have hope has been very cool to see. And as a photographer, being able to see the data of the images, being able to see these images, it just puts into perspective how cool this equipment is and what we get to see, and just some of the things that we have to do to get these images. It's very cool to see. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more content, and I will see you guys in the next video.